A minister's vision, a near-death experience, and a warning for humanity. My name is Ethan, and this is my vivid, unbelievable near-death experience. I've shared fragments of this story with my closest friends and family, but this is the first time I'm putting it out there for everyone to hear. Some parts are hazy, as if my memory is trying to piece together something too big to grasp, but I've done my best to recount it based on my notes. I'm a minister for a medium-sized congregation, and I'm known for getting a little passionate during my sermons, so please excuse my theatrics. What I experienced wasn't just a near-death moment, it was something more. A glimpse into something I believe is coming, and soon. Let's begin. I'll never forget the sky. It wasn't just dark, or cloudy, it was an angry, fiery orange, like the atmosphere itself was alive with rage. Skyscrapers were crumbling, massive chunks of concrete raining down, the air thick with smoke and the sound of distant screams. I was running, dodging flames and debris, desperately trying to keep up with the crowd of terrified people. Suddenly, I stumbled. As I hit the ground, I saw something that made my blood freeze. A tank rolled into view. Not the kind you see in video games or movies, this was real. It had flags on it, but they weren't American. They were ones I'd only ever seen on the news, Chinese, Russian, and there were soldiers too. Their faces were cold, their guns pointed directly at us. I remember thinking, this isn't real. This can't be happening, not here. But it was. The shattered buildings, the wrecked streets, they were unmistakably part of my city, my home. Even through the haze and devastation, I recognized the landmarks. And now, foreign soldiers were everywhere, along with others, traitors, people from our own country, fighting alongside them. I didn't have time to process what was happening. My body moved on its own, instinct taking over. I saw a family trapped under rubble and ran toward them, shouting, waving my arms, desperate to help. But before I could reach them, everything went black. That might sound like the end, but it was just the beginning. What I'm about to share will sound wild, but I promise, it's what I experienced. The day it all started was an ordinary Saturday. I'd been prepping for an upcoming sermon about hope, wanting to remind people that no matter what we face, we're never alone. I needed some time to clear my head, so I hopped on my bike and set out on one of my usual morning rides. I was coasting down a long, quiet hill, the wind rushing past me, the sun peeking through the trees. I felt free. And then, a flash of white. A truck. I didn't even have time to react. There was the screech of brakes, a crash, and then, nothing. No floating out of my body. No bright light. It was more like a switch had been flipped. One moment I was on my bike, and the next, I was standing in the middle of what looked like a disaster zone. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I was in a massive city, one that felt familiar though I couldn't pinpoint which one. But something was wrong. Buildings were shattered, their twisted remains jutting out at odd angles. Fires raged everywhere, sending columns of smoke into the sky. People were running, screaming, their faces filled with fear. I tried to call out, to ask what was happening, but my voice was drowned out by the chaos. And then I saw them, soldiers marching in perfect formation. But these weren't American troops. Their uniforms bore foreign flags, Russian, Chinese, and others I didn't recognize. Somehow, I just knew this wasn't some far-off war. This was here. This was our country. The year was 2025. I was frozen in place, my mind reeling, when a girl, she couldn't have been more than 8, caught my attention. Without thinking, I ran to her. I knelt down, told her it would be okay, and promised I'd keep her safe. She reached for my hand, and in that moment, I felt a responsibility greater than I'd ever known. Together, we joined a group of people hiding in an alley. Whispers filled the air, rumors about how the invaders had cut us off before we even knew what was happening. They'd taken over power grids, communication networks, and more. It didn't take tanks to bring us down, it took control. One man in the group, an older guy with a grizzled face, shook his head grimly. "We were warned," he muttered. "They said this would happen, but no one listened." Suddenly, someone pointed toward the street. Soldiers were moving from building to building, methodically searching for anyone hiding. The woman next to me whispered that they were rounding up those who resisted. I didn't want to know what happened to the people they found. We slipped into the shadows, moving as quietly as we could. My heart pounded as we navigated the alleys, trying to stay ahead of the soldiers. But then I heard it, a low, mechanical buzzing. Drones. They flew overhead, scanning the streets with blinding spotlights. One of the older men muttered, "This is how they got us. Not with guns, but with tech. They don't even need pilots anymore. These things, they're programmed to find us." We pressed ourselves against the wall, holding our breath as the lights passed. When they finally moved on, we thought we were safe. But then we heard the heavy footsteps, boots on concrete. The soldiers were coming. Panicking, I spotted a narrow stairwell leading to a basement. I motioned for the group to follow, and we slipped inside just as the soldiers reached the alley. The basement was damp and pitch black, the air thick with mildew. We huddled together, listening to the sounds of the soldiers above us. I thought for sure they'd find us. I held the little girl close, ready to shield her if they came. But somehow they moved on. For a moment, we dared to breathe again. The older man leaned in, his voice a whisper. "There's a resistance camp in the industrial district. If we can make it there, we might stand a chance." Hope flickered in the group's eyes. It wasn't much, but it was something to hold on to. We moved through the alleys, each step feeling heavier than the last. Finally, we reached the camp, a hidden stronghold filled with people determined to fight back. The leader, a woman named Sarah, explained that the invasion wasn't random. It had been planned for years, exploiting weaknesses we'd ignored. The invaders weren't just here to conquer, they were here to dismantle everything we stood for. As I listened, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just a vision. It was a warning. A glimpse of what could come if we didn't change course. Suddenly, the world around me began to blur. The camp, the fires, the soldiers, it all started to fade. And then I was back. Back on the road, lying next to my bike, gasping for air. The pain in my chest was real, but the vision felt even more real. I sat up, my mind racing. Was it just a dream? Or had I been shown something bigger? Something I was meant to share? What I saw wasn't just a nightmare. It was a glimpse of what could be, a warning for all of us. The world I saw is not set in stone. It's up to us to act, to prepare, to come together before it's too late. If you're hearing this, I urge you, pay attention to the signs. Don't wait until it's too late. Together, we can change the course of what's to come.